She thought it was just another cleaning work. But when she received an offer to work at P. Diddy's house, something inside her said something was wrong. The payment? 10 times more than normal. The only condition? Be silent and not ask questions. But when he noticed the ajar door inside the Magnata's room, curiosity spoke louder. What she found inside that closet has changed her life forever. Strange masks, notebooks with disturbing symbols, mysterious vials, and a labeled VHS tape. That's when she realized someone knew she had seen it. And then came the final warning. Never come back. Find out now what really happens at P. Diddy's house. Her report starts like this. If I could go back in time, I would have refused that offer. Having answered that connection was the biggest mistake of my life. That day I was just trying to survive, as I always did. I worked with cleaning for years, going from house to house, doing my service and leaving without looking back. I never carried out who the owners of the houses were. Rich, famous, powerful. For me, they were all the same, but that offer was different. My phone rang in the middle of the afternoon. The voice on the other side was firm, without emotion. A man who did not introduce himself, did not ask how I was, and did not seem to care about anything but the reason for the connection. Are you available for special work? We pay 10 times more than your usual rate. My first reaction was to think it was a blow, but the way he spoke, so straight, so calculated, it made me hesitate. The customer is very discreet, he continued. You can't ask questions, you can't talk to him, you can't look straight at him. Just go in, clean and skirt. By now I should have turned off, but my reality did not allow me this luxury. I was bogged down in late accounts, and that money seemed the solution to all my problems. So, against all the instinct of my body, I accepted. He gave me an address and said a car would come to pick me up the next morning. No, take a bus or call a taxi. They would take me there themselves. When I hung up, I felt a weight on my chest. Something didn't seem right, and I must have trusted this feeling. I didn't know yet, but by accepting that work, I was opening the door to something I could never forget. Something that would pursue me for the rest of my life. The next morning, a black car stopped in front of my house. The driver did not say a word, just looked at me from the rear-view mirror and waited for me to enter. There was no identification in the vehicle, no personalized sign, nothing that called attention. Just an expensive, discreet, and armored car, as if its only purpose were to go unnoticed. The route was long and silent. As we walked away from the city center, I realized that we were going to an isolated area where only the richest and influential lived. After almost an hour, the car stopped in front of a huge black gate without any visible identification. The driver typed a code, and the gates opened without any sound, revealing a long private road surrounded by tall trees. I could see cameras in all directions, hidden but clearly watching each movement. My stomach rolled. That was not just a house, it was a fortress. When we finally arrived, my eyes widened. I was in P. Diddy's mansion. Yes, P. Diddy, the music tycoon, the billionaire businessman, the man who seemed to be everywhere. I had heard about him my whole life. I had seen photos of the house in magazines and social networks, but live, it was different. The mansion was huge, but did not convey the feeling of a home. The design was modern, minimalist, but cold. There was no warmth there. There was no life. The heavy curtains covered the windows, blocking any natural light input. The silence was absolute. When I got out of the car, a black man was waiting for me at the door. He didn't smile, didn't greet me, just looked at me for a few seconds before saying, with a dry voice, "Finish your work quickly. Do not touch what was not requested, and especially, do not open any locked door." That last sentence made my shivering skin, but I did that yes with my head and entered. The air inside the house was dense, the type of air that seems to weigh on you. I've worked in many rich people houses, but none of them gave me the feeling of prison. The few employees I saw was hurrying without looking at it. No one talked, no one smiled. They just did their tasks, such as robots programmed to exist in silence. I went straight to the upstairs where I was told that I should start. My first destination was Diddy's main fourth. The atmosphere was luxurious but impersonal. Nothing was out of place. Everything seemed meticulously organized, almost like a showroom. not a real room. But it was then that I noticed something. The closet, which should be closed, was ajar, and a weak reddish light escaped from inside him. My heart hit hard. I shouldn't go there. I knew that. But something in that door called me. I knew I shouldn't approach that door. I was there for a simple job, clean and leave. But that closet ajar inside P. Diddy's room, something in it didn't seem right. The reddish light that escaped through the span was weak, but enough to make me feel a shiver up the back of the neck. The rest of the room was impeccable, almost artificial, so perfect, as if no one actually lived there. But the closet seemed to have its own presence. For a moment, I hesitated. If he was ajar, he meant someone had left this way. It could be a mistake, a forgetfulness, or a warning. I took a deep breath and pushed the door, opening it slowly. What I saw on the other side made my stomach turn. P. Diddy's closet was not a simple cabinet for designer clothing and accessories. It was an isolated space, like a personal sanctuary. The walls were covered by glass shelves, organized with millimeter accuracy. But instead of branded clothes or shoes, what was there were objects that should never be in possession of someone. The air inside was different, heavy, dense. I smelled strange, something between incense and rusty metal. The floor was dark wood, and every step I took seemed to amplify the feeling that I shouldn't be there. It was then that my eyes landed on the objects arranged meticulously, and my heart almost stopped. It was a disturbing collection, full of items that I could not understand completely, but that instinctively knew they did not belong to a common place. My hand began to sweat. I needed to get out of there, but my body refused to move, because right before me, there were 6 things that should never be hidden within the closet of such a powerful man. It was at this moment that I realized that I had made a terrible mistake. I saw something I shouldn't have seen. I wanted to believe I was imagining things, that my mind was exaggerating, that none of it was as strange as it seemed. But the more my eyes ran that closet, the more I felt I was facing something that should never have been seen. P. Diddy's mansion was immense, luxurious, full of riches. But there, in that space hidden inside her own room, what I found was dark, secret, macabre. 1. Strange leather and metal masks. In one of the shelves, I saw at least 5 masks, each more disturbing than the other. Some were entirely black leather, with metal claws and short chains on the sides. Others had carved symbols, strange marks I had never seen before. But what really shivered me was realizing that they were spent, used. Second, Polaroid photos scattered. On a small table, a lot of Polaroid photos was thrown without very careful. I took one hesitant. What I saw in it made my stomach turn. They were images of parties, but they were not normal parties. People wearing masks, some holding drinks, some just looking at the camera with strange expressions. But some photos were even worse. I saw faces of people who seemed uncomfortable, scared. Third, old notebooks with bizarre notes. Next to the photos were 3 aged leather notebooks. I quickly leaned one of them. My heart froze. Names, dates, strange symbols, repeated on several pages. Some words were in Latin, others were just disturbing scribbles. One of the names seemed familiar. Would it be someone famous? Fourth, glass vials with dark liquid. One of the highest shelves displayed small glass vials, accurately organized. The liquid inside them was thick, dark, almost black. I took one and turned into the light, trying to understand what it was. That's when I saw a detail that made me drop the bottle at the same time. Each bottle had a label, and on the label, a name. 5. A VHS tape without label. In the corner of the shelf, next to an ancient VCR, there was a VHS tape. Unlike other objects, she seemed displaced, as if she had been left in a hurry. What had recorded there? Why did such a powerful man still keep a VHS tape in the 21st century? 6. An impeccable children's suit. At the bottom of the closet, hanging alone in a hanger, there was a small black suit. He looked new, well cared for, bent perfectly. In the pocket, there was something. My heart beat hard when I pulled what it seemed to be a piece of paper. It was an old photo, a child and a man, both of serious expression, looking straight at the camera. I froze. That photo looked wrong. The eye of that child. There was something there that made me feel a knot in my throat. It was at this moment that I realized I needed to get out of there. Now, but before I could take a step back, a sound made me freeze. Steps. Someone was coming. My muscles crashed. The steps were getting closer and closer. Slow, firm. Someone was standing across the door. I couldn't breathe properly. My heart beat so hard that it seemed to echo through the closet. Did they have cameras there? Did anyone see me stirring things? I tried to think fast. I put Polaroid back in place, pushed the VHS tape where I was, and closed the notebook with the names. Everything needed to look untouched. My whole body wanted to run from there, but my legs were heavy. The bedroom door slightly ranged, and by a crack I saw a shadow projected on the floor. Someone was watching me. At that moment I realized that it was not just about what I had seen, it was about what that meant. I was inside P. Diddy's house, and that mansion was not just the home of a music tycoon, it was a place of secrets. Secrets that I should not have discovered. I took a deep breath and, trying to look as natural as possible, left the closet and went back to work. I grabbed a duty and started cleaning any table, as if I had never left. My whole body trembled, but I needed to keep calm. It was then that the bedroom door opened completely. One of Diddy's security guards entered. Black suit, sunglasses, neutral expression, but his eyes were nailed to me. He stayed there standing, as if he was expecting something. Did he know? Was he just waiting for me to confess? Finish soon and leave. His voice was firm, without emotion. I shook my head and kept cleaning, trying to hide the fear. He watched me for a few more seconds, then turned his back and left. It was only when the door closed behind him that I allowed me to breathe. I needed to get out of there, as soon as possible. I accelerated my work and, in record time, I finished what they asked for. I took my materials and went down the stairs without looking around. The silence in the house seemed even heavier now. When I arrived at the entrance hall, one of Diddy's assistants was waiting for me. He held a thick envelope of money and extended to me without saying a word. I took the envelope with trembling hands, but when I turned to leave, I realized that there was something more inside him. A small double ticket. My fingers sweated when I opened it. 3 words, short, direct, threatening. Never come back. I left that house feeling an unbearable weight on my shoulders. The morning air seemed different, colder, heavier, as if somehow I had crossed an invisible limit within that mansion. The driver who brought me was still there, standing next to the black car. He opened the door without saying anything, without even looking into my eyes. I got into the car and the trip back started. The way was silent. I held the envelope on my lap, my fingers squeezing the paper so hard that he even kneaded. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to look at that note again. But the truth is that I didn't need to. The words were recorded in my mind. Never come back. That was not a request. It was an order. When I was finally left close to home, I got out of the car without looking back. I wanted to forget everything. I wanted to pretend that work never happened. But the problem was that I knew. I knew what I saw. And the worst of all, maybe that wasn't even the worst part of that house. In the following days, I tried to follow my routine, but something inside me had changed. Every time I turned on the TV, I saw Diddy's face. The same expression, the same smiles in gala events, always surrounded by powerful people. As if nothing in his life was wrong. As if those secrets within your home did not exist. Or maybe existed. Maybe everyone knew, but simply chose not to see. Since then, I carry with me a fear that I can't explain. I never told this story to anyone. I never tried to find out what I saw in that closet, but sometimes late at night, according to no reason, and I'm sure something is still watching me. Something I brought with me from that house.